Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 4, Government Communications and Information System Appropriation Bill.
The Honorable the Minister in the Presidency is invited to the podium.
Honorable House Chairperson, Deputy Ministers, Ms. Nomasonto Mutaung and Mr. Kenny Morolong, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, Honorable Boyce Maneli, members of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, the management of GCIS, members of the Board of the Media Development and Diversity Agency, led by the Chairperson, Dr. Hlengani Matebula, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. A year from now, our country will most likely be in the throes of a general election that will mark 30 years since we started the journey of freedom and democracy for all South Africans. When we mark our democratic milestones, we often fail to acknowledge where exactly we were before freedom dawned. In this month of May, 30 years ago, our country was reeling from the assassination a month earlier of our liberation fighter, Chris Hani. This assassination endangered the negotiations that were underway in Ekurhuleni at the time. Indeed, Ekurhuleni was not known as Ekurhuleni back then because we had not reached freedom and this level of transformation of our society or of our fiscal landscapes. The South African economy was still isolated from the global economy. Workplaces were untransformed, service delivery was uneven, our diplomatic relations were just beginning to integrate a pariah state into the global community. We had no cell phones, internet or WhatsApp, and this parliament had 3 chambers that excluded the Black African majority of our population. So, House Chairperson, as we engage on this budget vote address, let no one rise to claim that South Africa of 1993 is better than the South Africa of 2023. As we reflect on our historical calendar, the month of May enjoys a significant place in our history for freedom. This is a place of pain and sadness as we reflect on the worst impacts of our history, but it's also a place that allows us to reflect with pride and relief at the road we have traveled in 3 decades to becoming a society that leaves no one behind. In May, we commemorate May Day as an occasion dedicated to honoring the workers of our nation and the globe. Just a few days ago, we marked 29 years since one of our world's greatest leaders who tended cattle in the village kraal in Klonu became the first democratically elected president of an inclusive and free South Africa. This May also marks 46 years since the apartheid regime, in desperation and in violation of human rights and simple regard for family life, banished Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela to a house with no water or electricity in Bradford in the Free State. From the point of view of the apartheid state, Winnie Mandela's confinement served as a warning to anyone who challenged the state. Today, we celebrate the fact that with this action, the apartheid state simply inflamed the fight against apartheid at home and internationally, and that apartheid deepened the world's revulsion and outrage at the nation's brand, the South Africa of 1977 presented to the international community. As we debate budget vote 4 of the GCIS for the 2023-24 financial year, we note it is 31 years to the day when the second convention for a democratic South Africa, commonly known as CODESA, ended in a deadlock when the parties could not reach agreement on the shape of the interim government. In particular, the ANC's rejection of the National Party's proposal for a minority veto within the interim government. Our inability to collectively remember, mark, or commemorate these and other important moments in the development of our nation will undermine our ability to effectively inform and mobilize South Africans in our democratic dispensation. House Chair, in 2023 and 2024, the government communication and information system of our democracy is tasked with communicating South Africa's story of transformation and progress to the nation and the world. We are also tasked with engaging with citizens and the international community on a range of platforms that allow us to listen and respond to people's concerns, complaints, compliments, yes, we get those and proposals for how we can grow South Africa together. To us, the provision of information to citizens and stakeholders and our interactive engagement with interested parties is an exercise in service delivery. This exercise entails understanding the mood of the nation and mobilizing South Africans and our global partners to contribute to the building of our society and our economy. Our nation's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and our reopening of the economy is an impactful example of what we can achieve when we work together as different sectors of society on the basis of understanding the complexities of a challenge to the nation. Communication plays a fundamental role in bridging the divide between government and citizens, as it allows the public to gain access to relevant information. It also provides channels for citizens to engage with the administration on issues that matter most to them. In the 2023-24 financial year, the Government Communication and Information System will dedicate its expertise and resources to providing South Africans and our partners with information that can help us achieve progress in those priority areas spelled out by President Ramaphosa in the 2023 State of the Nation address. These areas are load shedding, unemployment, poverty, and the rising cost of living, crime and corruption, and service delivery. Our communications will support the tireless and hard work undertaken by government to address the challenges we have just listed. We will sustain the flow of information on those priorities through, amongst others, the regular briefings that we present to the nation on all the priorities. South Africans will see our implementation of service delivery through media briefings of the kind we currently undertake with growing frequency, such as on our efforts to stabilize the national energy grid and bring new generating power online. GCIS will develop content for its online accounts and develop streams of information that will empower citizens to access social and economic opportunities. We will develop content for our own print media and for its audiovisual outlets, as well as through advertising and purchasing, of which we coordinate on behalf of departments and agencies. This week, residents of the Western Cape and PAL in particular will engage directly with the President and members of the executive at our District Development Model Presidential Imbizo in the PAL area. Imbizo are a critical platform for dialogue between government and citizens and stakeholder groups, as all of us have a responsibility and an opportunity to build the South Africa we want. GCIS will work with departments, provinces, state-owned enterprises, and partners in civil society to deepen communication of government's programs and the nation's promise as a destination and partner for tourism, trade, and investment. In the period ahead, we'll redouble our efforts to strengthen coordination of the government communication system, harness partnerships with labor, business, and civil society, intensify community engagements, increase the use of digital platforms to reach a wider section of the population, improve communication in all official languages, and empower community radio stakeholders as a local medium of communication with a national footprint. Amid the challenges we face, we understand the need for our messages to be substantiated by the underlying performance of the administration at a national, provincial, and municipal level. With this in mind, we will consistently involve the implementers of government programs in our communications rollout as part of ensuring that communications hold implementers to account. Our long-term program of communication will be inspired by and serve as a support mechanism to our realization of the National Development Plan, our Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and the 5-point Energy Action Plan. Honorable members, as South Africa ventures into the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and a continental market of more than 1 billion people, we will communicate programs that support regional integration and the African Agenda 2063. GCIS will put its best foot forward later this year in hosting an expected 200 journalists from our continent and elsewhere who will constitute the BRICS Media Forum from 18th to the 19th of August 2023. Media organizations and institutions from BRICS countries, developing countries, and emerging economies have had in-depth exchanges and initiated practical cooperation that drives the forum. The BRICS Forum has played a vital role in strengthening mutual learning among participants and promoting the BRICS spirit of openness, inclusiveness, cooperation, and mutual benefit. Our engagement with the international community will be guided by our understanding that a positive and powerful country brand provides a crucial competitive advantage in the globalized economy. Our country represents the spirits of resilience, hope, and the pursuit of shared prosperity. Our president put it best in this house in February when he said, "We are at our most essential, a nation defined by the hope and resilience." This is often expressed in our street lingo, such as Abure Makaplan, and Indoda Iya Aipeli Mandla. During the 2023-24 financial year, Brand SA will work to strengthen our country's brand position and reputation as part of our economic reconstruction and recovery plan, a better Africa and a better world, and leaving no one behind. House Chairperson, we live in a rapidly changing world in which technology is evolving at an unprecedented pace. During COVID-19, the GCIS embraced technological platforms to facilitate remote meetings, connectivity, and communication. These technologies have now become the norm and have allowed the GCIS to expand its operational capacity to reach a much larger audience. However, these technologies are only the tip of the iceberg, and game-changing technologies such as the new ChatGPT app is now being used by government departments in other countries to streamline their workflow. We will investigate the ethical legitimacy of such innovations as part of modernizing and updating our communication practices. As a response to the fast-changing communication environment, the GCIS will fast-track the upskilling of its workforce, and this goes hand in hand with upgrading information and communications technology systems to meet new demands. But we are also a country where many communities still primarily rely more on the traditional methods of communication such as face-to-face engagements. In this regard, the GCIS will continue to play a central role in supporting the Presidential Outreach Imbizo program. The GCIS is therefore committed to providing communication that not only touches and changes lives, but also relevant and easily understood by all the people. The department will strive to speak to every audience in a medium or language they understand, and will work to blend its communication approach to reach those with or without access to resources and technology, and also those who live in far-flung areas of the country. Honorable House Chairperson, we recently observed the 30th anniversary of World Press Freedom Day. This day reinforced the reality in our democracy that we uphold the right to freedom of expression and freedom of the press as enshrined in Section 16 of the Constitution. The political freedom media enjoys is, however, severely contrasted by the economic constraints facing this sector. The National Development Plan acknowledges that access to information through print, broadcasting, and electronic media is vital for an informed citizenry and economic development. However, the decline in advertising revenues and circulation figures is one of the biggest challenges faced by the private sector and the community media alike. The long-term sustainability of any medium is critical for the GCIS as government relies on these platforms to disseminate government information to the citizens. The media remains a key stakeholder, and it is through our relationship with the media that we are able to communicate and reach the majority of our citizens. During this financial year, we intend to strengthen these relations, and as such, we are looking at lessons that we learned during the COVID-19 period, which yielded very solid relations between the government, particularly the GCIS and the media. This partnership is essential to ensure that citizens have access to information, which is the heartbeat to the health of our democracy, the development of our country, and an enabler to government to get into every home despite the distance and time. Honorable members, to deal with persisting challenges of optional adherence to current communication norms and standards, Cabinet has approved the development of a white paper policy, which is the highest form of policy making. In summary, the development of the white paper policy marks the beginning of promoting compliance with legislative frameworks governing the implementation of the government communication system across all three spheres of government to enable meaningful coordination and coherence of message. The goal of the white paper policy framework will provide the institutional arrangement needed to support the dissemination of information to citizens. To achieve the objective of wide consultation, the GCIS will partner with community media to promote the 30 years of democracy engagement, but also communicate the achievements. In this regard, the Media Development and Diversity Agency, commonly known as MDDA, will strengthen its support for the community media to become viable and sustainable entities that are adapted to the use of technology in the age of digital media. The MDDA will work with NEMISA on the training and the participation of community media on the NEMISA streaming platform. Honorable members, it is also our duty to ensure a transformed marketing, advertising, and communication sector. The recognition that news media are operating on an uneven playing field has prompted the GCIS to work with the industry leaders through a ministerial appointed steering committee on the print and digital media transformation and revitalization to consider proposals that can be implemented by the South African government. In March 2022, we appointed and launched the Marketing, Advertising and Communication Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Charter Council as a response to our call by the President to transform and sustain the advertising sector. Honorable members, as the country commences the countdown towards 30 years of democracy, both the GCIS and Brand SA will focus on outlining the gains of the democratic government while creating a bridge between government and the citizens to address the challenges confronting us. The 30 years of democracy campaign is not a government-only endeavor, but a whole of society matter. In this regard, the GCIS will coordinate various engagement platforms as the country reflects on its journey, and this will include roundtables, town hall discussions, and Zikoroni community meetings at traditional leaders' places. The principle is that wherever our people are found, they must reflect and express their views and experiences under the democratic dispensation. For this freedom is never about us, the leadership. It must always be about the people. At the height of our struggle against apartheid, our forebears pledged to strive together, sparing neither strength nor courage until the democratic changes set out in the Freedom Charter have been won. These engagements are informed by our belief that government communication also includes consultation and dialogue with stakeholders, and we are committed to establishing a two-way dialogue with the public as part of enriching our participatory democracy. Honorable members, this year we celebrate 30 years since the establishment of the National Community Radio Forum, which gives communities access to 200 locally relevant radio stations with broadcast stories relevant to their needs and broadcast in the languages of their choices. Honorable House Chair, the GCIS has been allocated 749 million for the 2023-24 financial year and 847 million for the 24-25 financial year. The department's current budget is allocated as follows: transfers and subsidies to entities 256.6 million, which is 34%, of which 219.5 million is for Brand SA and 37 million is for the MDDA. Capital budget is 1% of the GCIS of 8.2 million, goods and services 27% of 201.8 million, and compensation of employees at 38% of 284.1 million. With great resources, GCIS will be able to do a lot more to ensure that all citizens and communities have access to information that adequately allows them to take advantage of the opportunities to improve their lives, to allow us to foster greater social cohesion and nation building, while ensuring that government speaks with one voice and maintains continuous citizen-focused dialogue. Consideration within the bleak economic climate should be explored to increase the budget allocation of the GCIS. This is based on the fact that when transfers to the entities are effected, GCIS remains with 494.1 million, which results to 8.2%, 8.2 cents per capita to provide communication to approximately 60 million citizens. I wish to thank the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies for the valuable insight and support they continue to provide while ensuring oversight that allows us to move government communications forward. We thank the Chair and committee members for their continued support and look forward to working together in the service of our nation as we approach 30 years of freedom and 24 years and the 2024 national elections. I also wish to thank my colleagues at the GCIS, the dedicated leadership and staff for their continued support and invaluable contributions. I have no doubt they will continue to rise to the challenge as they've done so in the past years. And I also like to thank the support of my two deputy ministers in the load that we shared evenly together as we carry this ship forward. Of all the national anniversaries I've cited today, I dedicate this conclusion to 25 years of GCIS since its establishment in 1998 in the early days of our democracy. I am confident our first 25 years will inspire us to another quarter century of growing South Africa together and leaving no one behind. Ndoribo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The Honorable L. Imolala is the next speaker.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Minister and two deputy ministers, Honorable members of the House, fellow South Africans. Early this year, the state president, President Matamela, gave reassurance to the nation at large that all parts of government will focus on addressing issues that concern South Africa most. That being load shedding, unemployment, poverty, rising cost of living, including crime and corruption. He further stated that the people of South Africa want action. They want solutions and they want government to work for them. The Freedom Charter asserts that all people shall be entitled to take part in the administration of their country. This speaks to the core of what the ANC stands for, as a movement of the people, by the people, and for the people. Indeed, the people shall govern. GCIS has constitutional mandate to ensure that it empowers South Africans with government information that is timely, accurate, and accessible. Equally, through GCIS and MDDA, our people must have an open channel for communicating their needs and their views with government. It is against this background that we welcome allocation of 749 million to the department in 2023 financial year, and foreseeable upward adjustment of 282,847 million in 2024-25, 816,429 million in 2026-27. While we believe that this allocation will enable the department to carry out its mandate, we also believe that due to important nature of this task and magnitude of its scope of operations, the department needs to be allocated more funds. Honorable members, lest we forget, the department has a responsibility to ensure that work of government broadly is known and understood by the people from all walks of life. Ideally, information dissemination by the department should be packaged in all official languages and even in Braille to accommodate and cater for those who are visually impaired in our society. It must also reach all areas of society, so more to the peripheral and rural areas where most people still rely on traditional forms of communication, mainly print and radio. This therefore gives impetus to the call we have been making in the House and in the Portfolio Committee to say that various departments must contribute a certain portion of their communication budget to GCIS as an official coordinator and distributor of government information. However, Chairperson, we are alive to a reality of a constrained national fiscus. We urge the department to stretch its budget to ensure it is used most effectively and efficiently as it spreads across its three programs, which is program 1, which is allocated 199 million, 2, which is content process and dissemination, which has been allocated 428 million, program 3, which is receiving 123.7 million. Honorable House Chair, we are encouraged by the department's commitment to continue to focus on providing and facilitating strategic government communication, as well as facilitating active citizen participation by rendering core communication activities and driving key national priority campaigns. One of those is ongoing campaign around the economic recovery and reconstruction plan. To this effect, GCIS through economic cluster team is implementing the communication strategy on the economic reconstruction recovery plan. The strategy includes media towers, opinion pieces, media briefings, interviews, the development of video clips and infographics, articles, various information products, use of community, especially around branding. This has been the running since the launch of ERRP, and it aims to profile and communicate the programs and milestones that the government has reached in responding to the country's needs to economic recovery and reconstruction post the dire consequence of COVID-19. As communication advances through the use of modern day software and applications, it is important that leaders also move with times and are agile to new technologies. Therefore, as the ANC, we are pleased with the work that GCIS has been doing to capacitate mayors, councillors, government administrative support, and communicators in government entities, executives, commissioners across the country. This training focused on areas such as government communication policy, communication strategizing, digital and social media, crisis communication, government corporate identity, customer care, public speaking, media engagement, amongst other things. The 34 sessions were attended by roughly 1,609 participants And we believe that the skills imparted to them will help them to better serve their communities, and in doing so, allow the dialogue to take place within those who serve on numerous service delivery related issues, so as to better their living conditions. I would like to encourage our government to be steadfast in addressing the immediate challenges that our people face daily, and what government is doing to address this in partnership with social partners, organized business, labor, and civil society. Our economy needs to be responsive to these challenges. The ANC believes GCIS should carry messaging that truly resembles who we are as the people, united in our diversity, and a country with great growth potential for investment. We welcome the initiatives that the department has taken with Brand SA, as well as South African tourism, to market South Africa as a preferred destination for investment, trade, and tourism through communication support that GCI provides to the annual South African Investment Conference, and through videos and media towers and the use of social media platforms. Furthermore, we commend the role that GCI plays in working with other departments to communicate the benefit of African Continental Trade Agreement, which has the potential to bring much needed trade and investment opportunities to this country. This is done by implementing the National Communication Strategic Framework and ensuring that conducive communication environment for promoting investment and tourism. We also implore the department to strengthen its governance rapid response system, mainly to deal with fake news and information. ANC will support this budget. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Matswana.
Mr. Chairperson, Madam Minister, firstly, let me start off by offering my deepest sympathies to the Budlani family who have suffered a very, very sad loss. The power of the propaganda machine. We live in a time of great uncertainty in our country. We are rocked daily by yet another scandal that would see governments of other countries ousted. Yet we see corruption, scandal after scandal, and nothing being done. We witness poverty, the poverty index spiraling out of control. We see the cost of living now at a point of dangerous levels. We see the world's finest governor of an independent reserve bank having no choice but to increase the repo rate regularly to ensure that inflation simply does not drown our country. We see health services deteriorate to deadly levels. We see children drowning in pit toilets. We see a postal service in provisional liquidation. We see an international diplomatic disaster causing our country to be viewed yet again as the pariah of the international community. We drive on Swiss cheese-style roads due to lack of maintenance. We have water outages on a daily basis for weeks at a time. And most notably, we are in the midst of the worst electricity crisis we have yet seen. But pick up any material produced by GCIS, and you would think that we live in a paradise state with functional departments, problem-free living, and nothing could be further from the truth. I must also point out that our budget briefing from GCIS was presented to us only this morning. And a complaint that we heard over and over again was that a much higher budget was required for this particular area of government. Now, someone really needs to explain to me, given the fact that people are dying of hunger, that we have no electricity, we have no water, children are learning under trees, they are dying in pit toilets, women are dying in labor every day. How dare a department that is nothing more than a propaganda machine for a governing party dare ask for more money? As it comes from someone who loves her country, but is ashamed of its government, I say this again, the power of the propaganda machine. A propaganda machine is very dangerous, and I'm afraid that GCIS has become nothing but a mouthpiece for the ANC, spouting out useless information, pivoting and spinning better than any rendition of a ballet I have ever seen. I remember a time when GCIS would provide MPs with copies of their propaganda newspapers to hand out in our constituencies. At least that complete waste of money and exercise in futility is over. Although I'm certain that certain constituencies still receive this junk mail, as the ANC dare not give up that tender. Something has to be addressed urgently in the fact that the more and more that we see in social media, the so-called parliamentary officers have tablecloths with ANC logos on. So people think they are going to a parliamentary surgery, as it's known, but it is actually an ANC workshop activity. Parliamentary TV is becoming increasingly selective in what is shown, and I have my doubts as to whether this speech will dare be shown on parliamentary TV, as it's not pro-ANC, and I am not spouting ANC propaganda. I look upon myself to chat to various MPs when I write a speech. The answer I got about GCIS was very, very worrying. Most of them said, what do they actually do? Where are they? What do they offer Parliament? This is not a healthy situation. I've gone onto the website, and this is what I have found. Cabinet meetings, which quite frankly, if a true reflection of what have happened, are sometimes listed. I'm not surprised we have the chaos that we do in our country, given what I read this morning. I found photos of cabinet ministers and premiers, all looking very smart. I found photos of a recent visit that the president had, but nothing substantial was written about the visit. I found links to government speeches, which were on the whole completely useless to the public unless fully understood by the portfolio. And most bizarrely of all, I found an actual advert for this parliamentary debate. Now, this department has come to us and asked us, as a propaganda machine, to give it public funds when it is so obvious that it offers the South African public zero benefit. If the governing party is that broke that they cannot do their own promotions, it should not be allowed to go through Parliament at the cost of the South African taxpayer. It should find its pocket money elsewhere. What I do, however, still receive is the official guide to South Africa yearbook. And let me put this as diplomatically as I can, but believe you me, it makes me cringe. It speaks with great pride about departments and the wonderful work they're doing. I ask myself a very simple question. Are you actually kidding me? The editor, Mr. Elias Tibane, I think it's time that you and I sit down and have a very frank conversation about your publication. And we talk about what you publish and why you publish what you do. I have seen one word about the levels of poverty and the unbelievable attainable cost of living. Not one word. I have not seen one word about children still being taught under trees and dying in pit toilets. I see nothing about the unemployment rate rising and the rapid removal of international investors. I see nothing about collapsing municipalities and corruption and criminality attacked there too. Remember, you should really save your airtime, otherwise you're just wasting parliamentary money. I have seen nothing regarding the ever increasing gender-based violence, just the odd mention of a talk shop here or there. I've seen nothing about the fact that we still have no National Assembly and that almost 1.5 years later, our beautiful building that was turned to ash remains a complete pile of ash. I see nothing about the rise of crime making South Africa some would view a danger zone that levels out with a war area. I see nothing about the fact that we can now expect a very highly level chance of reaching stage 10 of load shedding. And if you don't like it, honorable member, please go and speak to your Minister of Electricity, and he will tell you about the stage 10 we're about to hit. 32 hours a day, well, not a day, 32 hours at a time of no load shedding. That's not what I say. That's what your minister has told us. I see nothing mentioned about the implementation. Chairperson, I see nothing mentioned about the implementation, about the direct and clear instructions of Chief.
Honorable Masone,
Sorry,
Honorable Masone, there's a point of order. Could you please take your seat?
sorry, Chair.
Honorable Masone, could you please take your seat? What's on?
Sorry, Chairperson. Thank you for noticing me. Chairperson, I just want to say that in this venue that we have, it is actually quite small. And for the person debating, it is really a disturbance if someone interacts. I understand we do have heckling, but we really can't have members converse aloud in this venue. It just doesn't make sense. People cannot hear yourself. And I think that must be looked at. Please, Chair.
Point of order sustained, honorable member.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. That's what happens when a nerve is touched in a certain way. I see nothing about the fact that the clear instructions of Chief Justice Raymond Zondo regarding corrective steps that must be taken following the Zondo Commission's findings of gross corruption known as state capture are listed in any of the books. The propaganda machine is designed for one thing, and one thing alone: to manipulate the truth and keep South Africans in the dark, if you'll pardon the pun, about the real goings on in the government. The elections in 2024 cannot come soon enough. The moonshot election is now our only hope, and the GCIS propaganda machine is absolute proof of that. Allow me, oh, I'm a joke, an honorable member says. Well, let's go and read the Zondo Commission, and then we'll see your name written there, sir. And we will see who the actual joke is when we meet each other in court. Allow me to conclude with the following quote made by Sir Winston Churchill. Laws, just or unjust, may govern man's actions. Tyrannies may restrain or regulate their words. The machinery of propaganda may pack their minds with falsehood and deny them for many generations of time. But the soul of, and thus in a trance of frozen on a long night, can be awakened by a spark coming from God knows where, and in a moment, the whole structure of lies is exposed in a trial for its life. That trial, it's on its way, come May 2024. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Indeed, honorable members, Rule 82. We may heckle, but let us not make it too loud to an extent of drowning a member on the platform. Let's keep our heckling controlled. The Honorable Pamba is on the virtual platform per arrangement. The Honorable Pamba. He seems to be absent.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Well,
Chair. And Chairperson, the EFF rejects budget vote 4 on government communications and information systems. Today, there is not a single sector of society which is not affected by the destructive effects of load shedding. Government communication. Can you hear me, Chair? Yes, Chair.
There's a point of order.
Chair-
What's a point of order?
Chairperson, I just want to know, I know there was a ruling made that if a member is not in the House, he won't debate, except if there was a specific request for that. And I just want to make sure if the request was granted, then I have no problem. Thanks, Chair.
House Chair. House Chair.
Yes, there has been such an arrangement. Just hold on, Honorable Ntangweni. I want to presume that such an arrangement has been made. I was informed of his availability on the virtual platform. Honorable Ntangweni, are you making a point of order?
There was an arrangement made, House Chair. Can that member just stick to
I have-
his members? We will
I
stick
have
to the
ruled-
EFF members, please. Can we not be entertained by multiple parties here?
Honorable Ntangweni. I have already ruled on that, Honorable Ntangweni. Can you continue, Honorable Pamba?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. As the EFF, as we said, we reject budget 4 on government communications and information systems. Today, there is not a single sector of society which is not affected by the destructive effects of load shedding. The government communications and information systems, having known how destructive and prolonged load shedding was going to be, never moved an inch in planning for mitigating the impacts thereof and adapting its systems and functions to stop the destruction of load shedding brought by the ANC government. One of the primary purposes of having a platform such as government communications ought to have been to ensure that there is uniformity in the manner government communicates its decisions, plans, and how it responds during times of crisis. The GCIS has been caught sleeping during key moments over the past few years, such that we do not know what the government's position on a number of issues are. For instance, are we withdrawing from the International Criminal Court or are we not? What is our clear position on the war between Russia and Ukraine? And what is the government's position on the continued pardon me, Chair. What is the government's plan? What is a coherent government plan on dealing with the mismanagement of ESCOM and destruction of load shedding is causing? What is the comprehensive plan for dealing with crime, with unemployment, with the ballooning rate of sexual crimes, with embedded corruption? This must not be left only to the respective departments. The GCIS, as a central government communications mechanism, ought to give a sense of direction to the way government communicates, so as to give confidence to society that problems are being handled, solutions are being sought, and that our country will not collapse. Perhaps the problem is that government itself has no plan for any of these issues. One day, Mr. Ramaphosa announces that the country will withdraw from the ICC. The next, he withdraws. One day, he announces the appointment of a minister of electricity. The next, he does not know what this minister ought to do. We do not know whether we are continuing investments in coal to avert impeding energy Armageddon, or are we sacrificing ourselves like modern day Nongawuzes in the quest to satisfy lobbyists who want to foolishly and abruptly transition the country to uncertain renewable energy regime? This makes the job of government communications extremely difficult. Therefore, the GCIS is a window through which we can see the alarming dysfunctionality of the state under Mr. Ramaphosa. If we had a properly functioning government communication system, there would be no confusion on the government's plan to end load shedding. There would be little room for lobbyists who have captured government so as to redirect policy to a yet approved renewable energy sources. Today, the country does not know whether South African Airways has been sold or just handed over to a group of private people with ties to the ANC or not. This has been left to Jamnandas's department, a department which consistently gives out conflicting messages on the matter. These are key communication messages the GCIS ought to be communicating on behalf of government to ensure that there is uniformity and a standardized way of communicating. Government information sources such as the Vukuzenzele newsletter, that has the potential to spread information to all corners of the country have been neglected and used only to give tenders to a disinterested group of ANC-aligned entrepreneurs whose sole obsession is looting of state resources. To date, more than 74% of young people who are unemployed do not have the faintest clue of what the department is doing to avert an unemployment disaster in this country. The so-called Tusong service centers that the GCIS runs are hopelessly, uselessly for the vast majority and useless for the vast majority of our people. Minister, under your leadership, the GCIS is a shadow of what it once was and is tragically incapable to restoring our people's confidence in the government. We reject this budget, and we do think that there should be an increase in it, and that we do need all the 54 offices that are not functioning because of load shedding. We need those inverters, Minister. We need an intervention. We need resources to be put in GCIS as we heard earlier on today in the portfolio committee. Thank you very much. We reject this budget.
Thank you, honorable member. The Honorable Majosi, the next speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Information and communication technology has changed rapidly over the past 20 years, with a critical development being the emergence of social media. The pace of change accelerates daily, and one of the best examples of this is the effect the development of mobile technology has on shaping the impact of social media. Across the globe, mobile devices, in terms of the total minutes spent online, as they put the means of connect anywhere, at any time on any device in everyone's hand. Therefore, the dissemination of crucial information issued by the government should be aligned with digital development. Over 30 million South Africans are now active on social media, thanks mostly to falling data cost and an uptick in internet usage during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's nearly half of the population having increased to 48% from 41%, which was 25 million users in 2020. According to international research agency, Statista, in South Africa, social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram have proven to be the most popular in the third quarter of 2021. As of 2022, there were an estimated 41 million South Africans with internet access, and the largest age demographic that is making use of social media is people between the ages of 24 and 34. At this age, with SA Connect and USASA, GCIS should be able to provide information on social media and SMSs like we did on COVID-19. Arguably, there is an increasing need of the government, and in particular this department, to diversify its digital footprint, especially to ensure that young people are aware of the various governmental programs containing employment and opportunities. Programs which form part of the content processing and dissemination. Programs of this budget, their objectives is to take the public aware of the opportunities created by the government through the publishing 15.3 million copies of Vukuzenzele newspaper per year over the medium term. Considering that this newspaper is only available in GCIS offices and Tusong Center, which does not help young people at all, because there is no young person who is unemployed who is able to have taxi fare to go to a Tusong Center or to any GCIS offices and receive that information. Perhaps the viability of this medium reconsidered, as the purpose of this budget is to provide a comprehensive communication service on behalf of the government. The mandate of this department stipulates that the public should be provided with information that is timely, accurate, and accessible. Therefore, the IFP notes that the word comprehensive should not only be aimed at the content of the information shared, but also the medium and platforms to share the information. Would also like to say that with the pandemic of load shedding and maybe going to stage 10 of load shedding, we hope that there is a plan in hand, that they will be proactive, that all the production that will be done with regards to the newspapers will reach all young people out there, and they will be able to produce the Vuk'uzenzele. The consideration of the comment made and the IFP accepts the budget. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Chair, the Minister referred to ChatGPT technology that certain governments use, but it's quite clear that her speech was not written by ChatGPT, because if it was, artificial intelligence would have acknowledged the complete chaos that there are in certain parts of the GCIS, inefficiencies, the havoc at the MDDA, and would have addressed the concerns of civil society, especially with regards to the MDDA. Cry is complete. At spinning away the problems and the inefficiencies of the ANC government. But no spin doctor can do that, because nobody can miss the complete failure of the ANC government. Nobody can miss the load shedding experienced. Do not have way. But the GCIS should coordinate communication. The COVID-19 pandemic and the complete chaos and ill-informed regulations by government was an example of miscommunication and the failure of the GCIS of actually performing their real task. Their task is not to spin and to promote the ANC and to think that everything and to create the impression that everything is well. It is to communicate in such a way that people understand. Did people out there understand the regulations? Because aside from the fact that it was ill-informed, it was miscommunicated because different government departments communicated in silos, and they still do. Does GCIS play a role to inform the public out there of new legislation, of amendments to legislation, of what is actually going on? Does the GCIS actually promote public participation and play a role to promote our public participatory democracy? They do not. They do not play a role to inform the public out there of SASSA. How many confusion is there of normal, ordinary citizens out there that do not understand the changes at SASSA? And social development fails horribly in informing the public. The post office is not a post office, I don't know what it is, and GCIS plays no role. They are just there to say how good government is doing, although everybody knows that is not true. The problem, Chairperson, is also that this minister and this government allows a person of the stature of Mate Bulu to be appointed as the chairperson of the MDDA, a person that was fingered by the Nugent Commission and involved in misconduct at the South African Revenue Services. But you laugh about it. And that is the problem, Chairperson. This government pays lip service to the Zondo Commission. You pay lip service to the fact that you say you are going to rid government institutions of corruption. You don't do that Because why do you allow a person like that to be appointed? Whilst civil society writes to the minister, writes to the president and says there's something wrong here. And then you go and look at the MDDA, which are supposed to be promoting community media, community radio stations, but there's complete inconsistency and bias. And people are promoted and given grants that shouldn't and are not deserving of those grants. But that's the problem. But you don't care about the people out there. You just care about yourself. But you are going to lose, and the GCIS will not be able to spin a loss for the ANC in 2024 because you are going to lose the elections.
Can you take a seat, please? There's a point of order. Honorable
I just
member.
want to understand, because in previous sittings, attacks on public servants who are not part of this house, who cannot answer for themselves, is that allowed? Because he just went for a chair of the MDDA, and presiding officer said it's not correct for members to go on attack of other public servants and people who are serving on government institutions, and they don't have a right to respond for themselves.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable Vessels.
May I address you on that?
Honorable Vessels, can you take your seat, please?
I want to address you.
Honorable member, your concern is taken. I'll look into it. I'll ask advice from it. I'll come back with it. Continue, honorable Vessels.
The Honorable Papu must go and read the Powers and Privileges and Immunity Act and understand what is parliamentary privilege. Let me tell you, Ace Magashule is a thief. He's corrupt. Let me tell
Honorable
President
Vessels.
Jacob Zuma.
Honorable
President Jacob
Vessels.
Zuma is a thief.
Honorable
You can't do
Vessels.
anything about it because I have
Honorable
parliamentary privilege.
Vessels.
Do you understand that? Go
Honorable
and
Vessels. Honorable members, if we allow emotions to fly, we will end up in a chaotic situation. So I really want to advise that let's keep our emotions in check. On the matter at hand, I have said I will come back to the House to explain how it should be, how it should go. I've taken into consideration the concern of the member that raised the point of order, and we will deal with it very soon. However, let's not allow our emotions to fly high. Thank you very much. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, you are invited.
Thank you, House Chair. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Maneli. Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Kumbuzo Nchabeni. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Murolong. Members of the Portfolio Committee on Communications. Chairperson and the members of the Marketing, Advertising and Communication Charter Council. Chairperson of the MDDA Board. The evolution of community radio can be equated with the resistance movement to the repressive, oppressive, and discriminatory system of apartheid. During the apartheid years, the media was used by the National Party regime to restrict freedom of speech. The media was controlled, and almost every content has to be sanctioned and approved by the evil system of apartheid. It is a well-known fact that some of the political activists were banned from media coverage, including some of the artists whose music could not be played in various media platforms. Though this was the case, the ANC was never deterred from allowing its voice to be heard in the struggle against apartheid. It is well known that the ANC used some of the platforms such as Radio Freedom, which is closely linked to the emergence of evolution of the community radio. Radio Freedom is the oldest liberation radio station in Africa, have been founded from the 1970s through 1990s. Bush Radio, like the Radio Freedom, is also the oldest radio station which was founded by the group of activists and broadcasted illegally in 1980s. Both these stations did not only serve as a platform to raise awareness against apartheid, but also served as a platform to raise consciousness towards its resistance. The apartheid regime banned these radio stations, but this never stopped the ANC to inform and educate our people and the world about the repressive system of apartheid. These two radio stations also served as a basic for the transformation of the media in South Africa towards openness and transparency. The transformation of the media after 1994 can be closely compared with the glasnost, which was introduced by Chef in the former media, more freedom of expression, almost similar to our transformation of media, which was never experienced during apartheid. House Chairperson, we are proud and unapologetic to declare that the transformation of the media is one of the agenda and achievements of African National Congress. The ANC is the only party that was able to ensure that there is freedom of expression and freedom of speech. It has and still allows anyone to express his or her views in the media without any fear or retribution. Sometimes it is interesting to note how other parties are to make noise about freedom of expression, whilst they are the direct beneficiaries of repressive apartheid media. With the victory to liberate our people from the shackles of apartheid, the ANC's 1991 Jabulani Freedom of the Airwaves Conference held in Netherlands established the key principles that will guide post-apartheid broadcasting legislations. The conference resolved on 3 important areas which have changed and modernized the broadcasting environment in the country, which are the establishment of an independent body to legislate broadcasting. 3-tier broadcasting system comprises of commercial, public, and community broadcasting. A definition of community broadcasting based on the principles of community ownership, control, and participation. From starting with noting, this ANC government has established a policy and regulatory framework for the community media from 1994 onwards. Community press and newspapers, similar to community radio, were the brainchild of media activist movement and anti-apartheid media, which were known as progressive alternative newspapers. To this end, media academics, Law, and Tomaselli argue that, open quote, in South Africa, there was a legacy of development decisions coming exclusively from either government, which has served only the white interest, or from capital, close quote. This motivated the establishment of community newspapers as a progressive alternative press across the country. House Chairperson, as we look forward to the 30th celebration of freedom in this country, the celebration is interlinked with 30 years of community media and 20 years since the establishment of MDDA. The South African community radio sector traced its roots back to the Cassette Education Trust project and Radio Zibonele. We also cannot forget ANC's foresight's role, which shaped what we are witnessing today. House Chairperson, the community sector has over 200 community radio stations, 5 community television channels, and over 150 online small commercial and community newspapers covering different urban and rural areas. These platforms all add to diversity in content, ownership, voice, and plurality to create an ecosystem of complementarity and inclusivity. I must further emphasize that after the leader of the society, the ANC, took over, the South African community media sector is one of the most developed in the world. We are now counted amongst over 100 countries that have 3 media systems: public, commercial, and community, which is supported by policy, law, and regulations. This ensures that community media are both developmental tools as well as the oppositional or advocacy medium to some specific human rights and communication of information, which are democratic, instrumental, enshrined in our Constitution. We have also responded to all calls made by the media activists from all over the country, where they proposed that community media should be owned by its community, but also have access to public sector funds and technology and training. To this end, we have delivered with the enhancement of Media Development and Diversity Act number 14 of 2002. A significant progress has been made to provide financial and non-financial support to community media. In addition, government has through the Community Broadcasting Support Program spent over 600 million of the sector between 2002 and 2022. House Chairperson, in closing, just like a normal family, community media too has challenges related to compliance, community broadcasting service license obligations, payments of royalties to collect societies such as SAMPRA, governance challenges, signal distribution tariff fee, the community media sustainability issues. We want to make it clear we are responding to these challenges. We are also making a call that community broadcasters must comply with their license terms and conditions, which specifically specify language and news quotas. We will work with the National Community Radio Forum in piloting a peer review mechanism that will see the development and standardized governance system for community media. We are amending the MDDA Act, which will allow us to changes in the sector as proposed in the draft white paper on audiovisual and content service policy, ICASA's 2019 Community Broadcasting Service Regulation. As part of this support to the community media, we will provide to a legislative provision on the composition of community media boards and its terms of office to protect government's investment. With these few words, I support the GCIS budget vote number 4 for 2024 and 2023 and 2024. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mthembu.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, fellow South Africans. It is with great sadness that earlier this year we learned of the untimely passing of Comrade Rafik Rohan, a journalist and a political activist who was a seasoned cadre of the African National Congress, Umkhonto weSizwe, MK veteran. Comrade Rafik served 15 years in Robben Island after being convicted of 21 counts of terrorism by the apartheid government. This comrade remains one of many unsung heroes, and we honor him for his bravery and speaking truth to power through his written work. His contribution and service to journalism in the apartheid era and government communications in the democratic dispensation have shaped political reporting and government communication to date. His contribution to Vuk'uzenzele in the year he spent as editor of the newspaper in GCIS left an indelible mark that continues to tell a story of hope and determination in effort to build a better life for all the people of South Africa. The digital, physical, printing, and distribution of the Vuk'uzenzele newspaper remain an integral part of the department operations. Vuk'uzenzele is the only national publication that focused on the government key priorities with an emphasis of service delivery programs and various opportunities created by government. Honorable members, whilst communication has largely moved to digital platforms, millions of people, particularly those in our rural and remote areas, still do not have access to digital platforms. Therefore, Honorable Chair, the ANC welcomed the allocation of 63 million rand towards the printing and distributing of 10.2 million copies of the newspaper over the medium term. In addition to this, the ANC appeals to Department to facilitate nationwide activations, Izimbizo radio interviews and printing leaflets, to mention a few, to inform citizens of the progress and strides that government is making, particularly towards addressing their main concerns around employment, crime, and load shedding, among other things. This should also provide an opportunity to leaders to interact with those whom they serve, as this will give rise to one of the fundamental pillars of our democracy, that being public participation and fostering active citizenry. Therefore, in carrying out these tasks, we are confident that 11 million rand allocated each year over the MTEF period towards the intergovernmental coordination and stakeholders management programs will enhance the work of the sub-program on provincial and localizing. Honorable members, gender-based violence and femicide threatens the well-being and safety of our many citizens of our country. This crisis needs a whole of society approach to deal with it at its root cause and eliminate it from our society. We can't allow a situation where future generations inherit a South African society that normalizes that abuse and brutal killing of women and children. Against this backdrop, we welcome that GCIS has been able to facilitate 90 dialogue in the number of communities across the country on how best we can all join hands and tackle the scourge of GBVF. We further call on the department to work with SAPS, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, and the Department of Social Development towards bringing the spirit and intention of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide to life. Government department must intensify the working relations which civil society organizations and society at large. In doing so, the government continuously need to track and trace its implementation of the 5 critical interventions on which the strategy is anchored. They are as follows: urgently responding to victims of survivors of GBV, broadening access to justice for survivors, changing social norms and behavior through high-level awareness raising and prevention campaign, strengthening existing architecture and promoting accountability, and creating more economic opportunities to women who are vulnerable due to poverty. As the ANC, we are pleased to see that an allocation of 60 million over the MTEF period has been made for the media buying programs in the content processing and dissemination program. This will enable processing and drive national priority campaign, such as one I have alluded to on the gender-based violence. A national drive around anti-corruption campaign in the public and private sector, and the ongoing implementation of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. These will conducted through social media, community radio stations, television, and newspaper, and distributing leaflets and flyers. The intention is to raise awareness and inform fellow South Africans about the government progress in dealing with these challenges. In the year 2022-2023, Honorable Chairperson, financial period, GCIS was able to stretch the limited budget and implement almost 2,000 development communications projects through its provincial and regional offices. Through these projects, it reached more than 26 million people, through community radios, door-to-door, blitzes, features, contents spread in local print media, outreach campaign, dialogue seminar, malls, school taxi rank activations, as well as road intersections blitzes. The ANC believes that this budget will further multiply the impact of the department work. As I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, as we are heading to national elections, the Department of Government Communication and Information System is responsible for the educating of all citizens of this country, particularly teenagers who will be voting for the first time, on the importance of exercising their democratic right to vote. We commend the work that GCIS.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time has expired.
ANC support this budget vote. Thank you once again, Honorable.
Can we check whether there's anybody from COPE in the house? Okay. The next speaker, Honorable Ndakane.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer, Honorable Minister and Deputy Ministers, and honorable members. I rise on behalf of the ANC to support budget vote 4 on government communication information system. Our support is underpinned by our firm understanding that the budget is a critical instrument which we can use to advance the transformation agenda in our country and effectively build a better life for all. The ANC remains committed to building a developmental and capable state wherein, I quote, everyone feels free yet bounded to others, where everyone embraces their full potential, a country where opportunity is determined not by birth, but by one's ability, education, and hard work. This is in the National Development Plan. And I think all members have read the plan as was accepted by the National Assembly. The Department of Government Communication and Information Systems in its entire entities, the Media Development Agency, MDDA, would play a crucial role in transforming the media landscape by embracing freedom of expression, fostering active citizenry, and encouraging media diversity. These are fundamental pillars that strengthen our democracy. That's why, anyway, Honorable Mazoni, you are here. It's precisely because we always try to ensure that everyone participates fully in a democratic process. The point that you are, in fact, we are elected precisely because we fought for the liberation. If we're not there, we wouldn't be here. If we're not, they wouldn't be here. Because in general, we take it for granted that a large number of our people sacrifice everything for us to sit here. If you talk, and even if you insult us, we always accept it because we fought for the liberation of all our people, black and white. Black and white. And I remember, you were really, this precisely because of our sacrifice that you are here. If you can't acknowledge that, then you would never acknowledge the future South Africa, because that's a bigger problem to do. In this regard, the role that the MDDA plays in creating accessible, development and diversified and sustainable community in small commercial media cannot be taken for granted. We are therefore pleased that the agency will receive support in the medium term. These funds will help the MDDA to ensure that it continues to provide financial and non-financial support to community and small commercial media with the emphasis on promoting indigenous languages and contributing to community development. The ANC welcomes that most of the agency's budget over the period ahead is going to be directed at grant funding for 64 community broadcast projects. This will be in the form of initiating new projects and strengthening existing ones, including 18 community and small commercial media print and digital projects. We implore the department to intensify its focus in ensuring the sustainability of media projects, particularly in communities that are underserved by the media mainstream, particularly the rural areas. I do think that we should agree as members of parliament that we must all go out and service the rural areas. I know that people, the country is urbanizing very fast, but there's still people in rural areas that we must ensure that they are served. In Kosubteles, we must ensure that the people in Kwanongo, they are served. There's connection, there's everything that they need to live a better life for all. At our 54 National Conference, the ANC resolved that the transformation of an advertising industry is an area that needed close attention, as international companies largely dominate outdoor media and digital marketing. The marketing and advertising communication program has been adopted to this effect. The minister has since appointed a marketing, advertising and communication BE council and tasked it with the responsibility of broadening the meaningful participation of African people in particular and Black people in general, women, youth, and people with disability in this sector, so that they don't only consume, but have a fair opportunity to equally becoming entrepreneurs within this space. Implementing this program will help create a conducive environment that does not stifle economic growth in this sector. We look forward to following up on the work of the Council, as well as tracking its progress through the annual transformation report, which monitors and tracks the state of transformation in the sector. Furthermore, we hope that in future, the GCIS operational budget for provincial and regional offices will increase as they are biased towards community radio, development, community intervention, and that in reinforced government communication. This would go a long way towards aiding projects that are closest to the people. Such an initiative around the district development model, we are pleased that late last year in Umtata in the Eastern Cape, the department held a panel discussion to reflect on the progress made in implementation of DDM and progress on service delivery and everything. This created a platform for engagement and dialogue between communities and their leaders. We appreciate the effort of the department for spearheading this. Before I just conclude, I want to make 2 points. The Moonshot initiative is a big dream. It's a big dream. Because really, Comrade Mazoni, I'm saying this thing because I respect you. Because I respect you. But this is a big dream. You know better than myself that a combination of liberals, negative liberals, African nationalists, and some gangs will never form any viable option. It will never work. The tripartite alliance have been tried and tested over many years, almost 100 years now. Therefore, this, in fact, we are running the country anyway. There are challenges. We accept that there are a lot of challenges, but we are running the country. Can you imagine one day you wake up, the ANC is not in power? None of you have a capacity to govern this country. None of you. No, I'm just saying, no, but Western Cape is the smallest, But I'm just saying, if us tomorrow we can invite you, okay, we are out now, take over. You will come back to us and beg us to rule because you have no capacity to do anything. No policies. I don't know what is your policy. No policies, no coordination. That's why I'm saying, Honorable Malathi, that the moonshot is completely a good dream. It's a good dream, but it's still a dream. Therefore, we must try to avoid doing that, because you know that the combination doesn't work. We fail to do that in local government because it doesn't work. Because we are just bringing everyone who's available. It's not going to work, and therefore You must accept that it's going to take long time for you to become a governing party in this country. It's going to take long time. In fact, shooting the moon may not be impossible. But good luck. Maybe it will work one day, but a century that we have to wait for it to work.
But you know there has to
Thank
be
you very much for that.
You know
Thank you,
there has to
Presiding Officer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister in the presidency, you have 12 minutes. 12 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chair. I had to Google what propaganda means. And then I found out that it's information of a biased or misleading nature used to promote a political cause or a point of view. Because I was confused when Honorable Mazzoni was speaking right here about what propaganda is she referring to in terms of the work of the GCIS. But then I got a response that in 2020, 137 million of municipal was spent on municipal energy resilience energy project in the Western Cape with no single megawatt produced. And that all went to consultants. And there was, during the 2021 local government elections, 1,000 youth ambassadors who were called walking bus officers and blue dot taxi campaign, whatever. And after the elections, all that stopped. In any case, what can you say about a party that spent more than 5 million rands trying to defend the sale of land at Sea Point, which was designated for social housing, to make sure that the poor can also move closer to their place of employment and place of doing business. And they lost it in the lower court and they appealed and lost it again. In any case, that is propaganda. So I do not have time to deal with that. In any case, but what is very appealing, Honorable House Chair, is that the person who was complaining about noise is the one making noise. And it's of course correct when a white man heckles and shouts down a woman, but when a white woman is heckled down, he has to protect her because they can't speak. And that's what we rejected with the CODESA, the minority vetoing the majority. You cannot use that, and that's serious racism on your part.
Honorable Minister, if I may just appeal to the House, the previous chair has appealed to you. The venue is very small and not acoustically friendly. So when you are heckling, please keep it to a lower decibel. Thank you. Continue,
anyway, the problem, and I thought there was something wrong with misleading the House. Honorable Mazzoni stood up here and said the budget of GCIS was only debated in the portfolio committee this morning. And that is not factual. The budget of the GCIS was tabled to the portfolio committee on the 5th of May. But if Honorable Mazzoni bothered to stay for the full portfolio committee meeting, she would have known. And then to this morning, what was discussed at the portfolio committee is the impact of load shedding on the work of the broadcasters. But in any case, you were not there this morning. In any case,
Chairperson.
Honorable Minister.
I'm sorry, I'm terribly sorry to
order.
bother you, Madam Minister. So please, my deepest
Please
apology.
speak to the chair.
Chairperson, I was in the committee meeting all morning this morning, and the minister is misleading the House by saying I was not in the committee. I was there all morning, and you can check the minutes.
Continue, Minister.
It's very interesting that when she was in the meeting, she could not know what was discussed in the meeting. And that is the problem. In any case, Honorable Mdakane has dealt with the moonshot issue. But there's no moonshot election next year. There is general national election. What is moonshot is the DA's attempt or acceptance that on its own, it cannot remove the ANC from power. It needs to go and call friends and call former fools and call everybody to then be able to confront the ANC, because on their own they cannot. But in any way, the English, you are better off English than me. And moonshot, the synonym of moonshot is long shot, a small chance, and lucky shot. So what do I say about the moonshot coalition? In any case, honorable vessels, I thought I was going to then have an informative engagement about our commitment to limit what you refer to around government silo communication. That's what the budget vote speech was talking about, to say we are going to eliminate silo communication from government. We are going to promote the public participation, and our IMBIZO program is intended for that. And also the DDM oversight meetings are intended for that. In addition, in the budget vote speech, we indicated that we are going to have town hall discussions, a corona discussion, maybe it's because I use the term corona. We are going to have roundtables and getting engagements about South Africans, talking about 30 years of democracy, their impact and the gains and the challenges remaining, so that we can have that dialogue. And that is part of public participation. It's firmly on our speech. And I thought I'm going to concede to you that part of our targets on the, if you go through our APP around the work on the online platforms of GCIS, is to communicate useful government information like the SASA dates, like the DPSA employment jobs opportunities, Department of Small Department and DTIC, and any other opportunities that are arising from government. But then when you started to confuse the Zondo Commission and the Nugget Commission and the findings of the Nugget Commission, I then gave up. Honorable Majosi, I really appreciate the concerns you've raised about the circulation and distribution of Vukuzenzele. If you have other suggestions of where we can circulate them more, we will really appreciate that and will act on that, so that the message of Vukuzenzele could then reach our people. And I do not know why, maybe that's why he didn't have proper network to participate here. Honorable Pambo, I do not know why you want to go back and talk about the Rome Statute. We have clarified the government position. The government remains a signatory of the Rome Statute in this country. And in case you have missed it, because our country is always bound to focus on negativity. In case you have missed it, and our position on neutrality around the Ukraine-Russia war is that we've said we want to seek peace. The president has announced today that he has made calls to both President Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky about impressing on them on a negotiated settlement, but also the Ukraine-Russia Africa Peace Initiative, that as part of the African countries that are wanting and availing themselves to facilitate peace, and the two presidents are going to revert back to us, or then so that we can then see a negotiated, and we will not be bullied. And attempts to continue to project South Africa and the brand South Africa and the nation brand in the negative will not succeed, because the facts are showing differently. In case you have missed it, maybe you were at the house or preparing to come to the house. Today, this afternoon, the statistics released the quarterly labor force survey of first quarter of the year 2023. Maybe let me tell you what they say in that, in that one. There is an increase in the number of employed persons by 258,000 to 16.2 million in the first quarter of 2023 compared to the fourth quarter of 2022. This is the sixth consecutive increase in employment in this country, and that is important to note. And another figure that we need to note is to say, we have a decrease in the number of people who were not economically active for reasons other than discouragement by 209,000. And this is there's also a significant decrease in the number of discouraged work seekers by 87,000 in the first quarter of 2023. And if you look up to it, though youth unemployment remains a challenge, there's also a 28,000 increase in the number of youth employment created in this country. And the sectors that have been creating employment is finance, community, and social services and agriculture. And just to clarify it so that nobody claims easy victories, the gains of employment were created in Gauteng, in Limpopo, in Western Cape, in KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Cape. So all provinces are contributing to the employment situation in this country. And for that, we'll continue as the government information system to communicate the message that this nation is a nation that is hard at work, that is resilient, and that is attaining progress despite the difficult challenges and the global economic environment we find ourselves in. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Order, honorable members. May I take this opportunity to thank the former chairperson for having allowed me to come back and make a pronouncement on the point of order that was raised by the Honorable Papo. Thanks for your indulgence, Honorable Chair. Members, Honorable Papo rose on a point of order that it is not permissible to reflect upon Mr. Mthembu, a board member of the MDDA. I undertook to consult on the matter and come back with a ruling. In terms of Rule 88, members are not permitted to reflect upon the competence or integrity of holders of public, except members of government, whose removal is dependent upon a decision of the House. Members may only do so by way of a substantive motion. Mr. Mthembu is the chairperson of the board of the MDDA. In terms of Section 6 of the Media Development and Diversity Agency Act of 2002, the removal of a board member is dependent on the resolution of the National Assembly. And therefore, Mr. Wessels was not permitted to reflect upon Mr. Mthembu in the manner he did. The member is no longer in the House. I therefore urge not to do so going forward. This situation arose of the current situation that we have of the mini plenaries, have hence this kind of an arrangement. Thank you very much, honorable members. Members, order. Members are reminded that the debate on small business development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the Good Hope Chamber, and the debate on National Treasury budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the committee room M46, which is this one. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.